Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wildlife Conversations. I'm Jen Ritchie, your host. So glad that you guys could join me, and I want to thank you for spending time with us today. I know your time is valuable. I had several people mention my guest to me today and wanted me to talk with him. And so I'm excited that he said yes. He is an award-winning photographer, guide, and conservationist. He grew up in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. He completed his bachelor's degree in environmental science and then received a master's degree in multimedia environmental communication at Stanford University. He has an in-depth understanding of wildlife, the natural world, and the threats they face. And he's always aiming to share his understanding with others through his photography and his teaching. He's been all over the world, but his favorite is guiding close to home and in Alaska. Through his guide company, Pangea Expeditions, he has helped many of his clients reach their photographic goals and see the wild spaces our world has to offer. I am so happy to welcome Syler Peralta-Ramos. How are you, Syler?
I'm doing great, Jen. Thank you so much for having me.
That's a
Um
big intro.
that was really sweet of you to say those things. It was
Yes,
very kind of you.
yes,
I
so many
feel very
accomplishments already.
thank you. I feel
That is
very,
great.
very honored to be here.
Yes. Well, I'm honored to have you. I am serious. I had several people mention your name to me and we followed each other. So I thought I'm just going to reach out. And sometimes it's a little scary to reach out to people. I don't know what they're going to say, but you were so kind and generous to come on. So I really appreciate it. And every time people would say, he is the nicest guy. He is a solid guy. So, and a
Oh,
lot were your former clients.
oh, that's
That's
sweet.
good. Yeah,
I
that says a
appreciate
lot.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that says a lot
Um,
about you. So you've probably been traveling this last month, and
I
are you
have.
visiting?
Yeah, I sort of it was a very last minute thing. My partner has family that's down in New Zealand, so we
Oh, wow.
a very very kind of last minute and not very planned out trip down there, but it was a great experience.
Oh, wow. I thought you just meant like Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Oh, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. My
Yeah.
son did a study abroad in Australia for a semester.
Oh, that's great.
And then, of course, went to New Zealand while he was there just to make sure he covered that too. It was gorgeous. So gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of a interesting place in that there's not a ton of native wildlife there. There are no native mammals.
Mm,
Um,
that makes
all,
sense.
all the native wildlife that's there are birds, and they're
Hmm.
very endangered in a lot of
Wow.
cases because of the species that people have introduced there. So
Oh, interesting.
it's one of those places that when you're trying to do wildlife photography there, you're very cognizant of whether you're impacting the animal or not because they're
Mhm.
so endangered there. So
So
it's
fragile. Hmm.
definitely an interesting experience being there and trying to see some of the species that are down
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But you took a camera with you.
I did, yeah,
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, but you still took
yeah,
that camera. Okay. It's hard not
yeah,
to take a camera.
yeah. It was the purpose of the trip wasn't necessarily photography, but I
Yeah.
it's like that without my
But
camera.
everyone knows you're gonna have a camera with you.
Yeah,
Could
exactly.
possibly happen.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so you grew up in the Jackson area though, right?
Yes,
Native Jackson or
yeah,
Wilson.
one of the very lucky few. Uh, yeah, so technically I was born in Arizona
Hmm.
actually,
Hmm.
because I was a huge baby and my mom she was on crutches and she was really afraid that she was gonna fall on the ice and stuff. I was born in February.
Oh, that makes sense.
And we have family that's down in Arizona. So kind of last minute, she was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah, yeah. I can't do this.
Um,
I can't do this.
yeah. So I was
Winter
born
and
down
pregnancy. Yeah.
there. Yeah. So I was born down there and then
Yeah.
we came back to Jackson as soon as they felt comfortable with
Yeah.
traveling with me.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. What a
yeah,
privilege, though.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think increasingly, especially since I've started guiding, um, I really have come to understand how lucky I am to have
Yeah.
grown up here,
Yeah.
and how central that is to who I am and the things that are important to me, and
Yeah.
um, to my photography and to so many things in my life. And so it's hard to imagine, what it would have been like, or what my life would be like now had I not grown up here. It's
Yeah.
um,
That makes sense.
I'm always very grateful for. And something I love about guiding here is, I think, um, I'm sure Steve Mathis has said this before, because I know he also grew up here.
Hmm.
Um, it's funny when you grow up here, a lot of people that grow up here very much take it for granted.
That's what
Uh,
I was gonna say. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, it's most of the people that I grew up with have probably never seen a grizzly bear.
Right. Right.
Like, don't actually go into the parks and do the things that are so special about being here. So it's sort of a funny thing, that sort of when you grow up here, you don't really realize what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
definitely guiding, um, for me, keeps kind of keeps me in check with that, I think, where it's like getting to interact with people that are seeing this place for the first time. Uh,
Right. Oh,
it
that's true.
always kind of, you feel that feeling again of
Yeah.
like, oh, this is really special. And I kind of vicariously feel what it's like to
See it.
sort of
Yes.
imagine what it was like to see it
That
for the
is
first
so true.
time.
I never thought about that. You get to see that magic every time you have a new client.
Hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I really, really love about getting to show this place to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I recently got to bring my new daughter-in-law in this last spring and then in the fall, and it is really cool to like just see their faces and like, wait, there's otters. Wait, there's a bear. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
And she got really lucky. Like we saw so much stuff. And then in the fall, it was really quiet and hot. Like this fall was really hot and bright. And she was like, wait a minute, where are all the animals? I was like, oh, you got really lucky. It's not
Yeah.
always like that. Not always like that. But it's so fun to watch it through someone's eyes. I'm sure that's so rewarding for you. So
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, where do you go on field trips when you're from Jackson? Like, do kids just not even think about, oh, there's like the most beautiful, like two of the most beautiful national parks right here.
You know,
uh,
we did go on field trips sometimes in
yeah, yeah,
freaking, you know, I went to, for part of elementary school, I was at a school where we did a lot of field trips.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's nice.
for, yeah, for whatever reason, a lot of the field trips were more over in Idaho than up in.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
Tons of
I mean, that's what
stuff.
Steve has said too. Like he took it for granted. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then as an adult, you're like, oh my goodness. I can't believe what
Mhm.
I have here. Yeah. Well, I'm in Indiana, so I know what you all have and like have to fly out there and like so
Yeah.
addicted to it. So it's like, but I can see, when you live somewhere, you do take it for granted and you don't realize what things are special. And so it's fun to see it with new eyes. But how did you end up deciding to pick up a camera?
Yeah, I mean, from from the time that I was a kid, I was always really sort of artistically inclined. I loved to draw and
Mhm,
to,
mhm.
not very good drawings or paintings,
But
but
still,
I just always really wanted to find ways of recording what it was that I was experiencing. And I think
mhm,
kind of throughout my life, I've always kind of, as I was saying before, kind of come to a greater and greater understanding of how lucky I am, to experience the things that I have. And I think that always felt like, um, a way for me to either, remember the things that I
yeah.
felt grateful to experience. And then kind of later on, that became a little bit more of like wanting to share that with other people as well.
Mhm, mhm.
And feeling like, um, you know, why am I the one that gets to have these experiences? Like I want to share that with other people.
Yeah.
And it's sort of part of how I feel okay with
That's
uh,
true. That's true. You can give
how
back.
fortunate I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that was, drawing and painting was something that was pretty core to just what I enjoyed doing in my free time when I was a kid.
Mhm.
And my dad, he did photography as a hobby. Never
Mhm.
did it professionally, but kind of, it was always something he dreamed of doing professionally, and never really ended up taking that step. But
Yeah,
I grew up around cameras,
yeah.
and there were cameras. His camera stuff was around in the house, and when we would travel, he was always taking pictures. And
Mhm.
um, so it kind of, when I got a little bit frustrated with, um, I don't know, I painting didn't really, I just wasn't naturally very talented at it. Um,
But
uh,
you were working those creative muscles for something else.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
That's good you recognized it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I kind of increasingly wanted to pick up a camera. And um kind of around that time my mom also started getting into photography a little bit. And
Mhm, mhm.
um it just, a lot of people around me started doing photography, and I was like, oh, that seems like it would be a really cool creative outlet to try.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, it's sort of interesting. My dad and I, um, even though he was kind of my main introduction to photography, we have like sort of polar opposite styles of photography.
Oh,
He's
that's
very much
interesting.
like people and street photography
Uh-huh.
kind of person, and is really interested in that kind of stuff, and doesn't really have as much interest in the nature side of things. And then, I kind of do everything but people.
That's
Uh,
funny.
yeah, it's cool though. I mean, we definitely learn from each other
Well,
in that
sure, yeah. Yeah, you can always be inspired by street photography and other things in your nature photography as well. Yeah. And
way.
it's interesting to see how 2 people can go 2 different ways. That's always so
Yeah,
like, everyone has a different, need and, like, lens that they wanna see through. It's so cool.
right.
You said that he shot Canon? I think you told me that before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that was very much how I kind of got started with photography,
Yeah,
was just like sort of hand-me-down equipment that he was sort of done using or had upgraded to something else. So
yeah,
I started using Canon, and then have stuck with it.
yeah. That's the same with
Uh,
me. That's
yeah.
the same thing. You said it's like you just get comfortable. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what's your favorite, like, what are you shooting now? What's your favorite lens, your go-to lens? I think you probably have 2 bodies going, don't you, most of the time?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah. I recently upgraded to the R5 Mark II.
Mhm, mhm.
And then I kept another original R5 because I
Yeah,
had two
yeah,
R5s.
yeah,
Um,
that's where I am right now too. I haven't switched yet to the Mark II. I haven't done it, so
yeah,
I'm still waiting, I think.
yeah. I mean, the original R5 is such an amazing camera that I think when the R5 II came out,
Yeah.
including myself, I think actually like, oh, I was like kind of expecting it to be like as revolutionary as the
Yeah,
original
yeah, yeah.
was.
That's kind of the
Uh,
reviews I'm getting. That's why I'm waiting. I'm kinda in
yeah.
wait.
But yeah, I would say like since I've gotten it, I've been really happy with it.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
um, not that the original R5 is unusable by any means anymore,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I definitely use the R5 2 more now. And so I'm like kind of more used to that now when I
yeah.
pick up regular
Yeah.
R5s.
Isn't that so funny? When you think you're fine with what you have, and then when
Yeah.
you upgrade and then try to go back, it's like, oh, it just doesn't feel the same. Like,
Yeah.
that new technology just feels so smooth and good. It's really hard to go back.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing is, and it. doesn't work for everybody. But the R5 Mark II has the it looks at your eye in the
Mhm.
viewfinder, and um, you can technically move your focus point around with that. Uh,
Wow.
but kind of where I find it useful is when you're using like animal eye detection, and
Mhm,
let's
mhm,
say you have, a mother bear and a cub, and you want the focus to be on the cub rather than the mom.
mhm.
Look at the cub, and then it tracks the cub's eye. Uh,
Okay. Oh, wow. That's
uh,
crazy.
it's good for selecting, like if you have multiple subjects in frame,
Mhm,
selecting
mhm.
which one you want the camera to hone in on.
Yeah,
And I would say that that's kind of the biggest sort of, speed saving, time saving thing,
yeah.
uh, in terms of using the new camera. And the thing that kind of feels the most different when I pick up the regular R5 is that it
You're
has
like,
become,
"Wait, my eye's not making decisions."
yeah, exactly. Like I have to use the joystick again.
No, no. Well, it is
Yeah.
amazing those things that just cut off, milliseconds that are so important in wildlife photography. It really is. The thing that this is like off topic, but the thing that bothers me sometimes about the R5 is when I turn it on, it takes too long. I just feel
Mhm.
like it needs
Yeah.
to turn on faster. Like I need those seconds. And so, don't turn your camera off, duh. But those times that you've turned your camera off maybe and then something happens, like, come on, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
it's just those seconds, and really, it's so personal. Everyone that's come on has such a personal reason for what they shoot with and what's comfortable with them. So it's really cool to hear like what they've picked as their kit. Um, so besides your dad, did you have other people that influenced your photography there in Jackson, or just as you were getting on Instagram or college? Did you have other people that kind of helped you along the way?
Yeah, I've been really lucky to have a lot of really amazing mentors over the
Yeah,
years. Part of
yeah,
that I definitely owe to having grown up in Jackson as well.
yeah. There's a camera everywhere when you're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Uh, so, yeah, I mean, like immediately in my family, my mom and her partner both are, they both uh, do and did photography when I
That's
was
right. Yes, yes.
studying. And then Tom Mangelson, who is he lives here in Jackson, and his galleries and things were definitely an inspiration to me growing up.
That's great.
Um,
Yeah,
and since kind of getting more into photography, he's been a big mentor to me,
that's amazing. Yeah.
which I have felt very grateful for that relationship.
Yes.
Um, Then, Steve Mathis is definitely one that I've always been very inspired
Yeah.
by here, and I've been very grateful to get to know him.
Yeah.
Um, and there are so many people that pass through here. So
Mhm.
in high school, well, so in the fall, there's a workshop that happens here in Jackson, and it's been I don't know how many years it's been running, but my dad did it every year and things like that. It is called the Photography at the Summit.
Oh, yes, yes.
Um, and it used to be held at the Wildlife Art Museum. I'm not sure. I think it's now they do it at the Virginian or something.
Mm,
But
mhm.
the it used to be a big congregation of tons of photographers from like National Geographic and the Washington Post and
Oh,
editors and
wow.
all kinds of different people, and they would always take two high school students from
Mhm.
Jackson to be able to participate in
Yeah.
that. Um, and so I got to do that 2 years of high school.
Oh, that is cool.
That was I would say that was kind of the first real sort of formal education that I got in
Yeah.
photography.
Yeah.
And it's a very intensive week, and you go out in the mornings, and then you're in classrooms
Mm.
during the day, and then you go out in the evening, and you have critiques every day, and um, the critiques are very very intense. Use the
As a
quickly.
high school student, I'm sure too.
Yeah.
Jeez, like National Geographic people around.
Yeah. So that was, I feel like I grew a lot as a photographer during that
Yeah,
experience.
it's like a speed growth, like just,
Mhm.
intensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then once I got to Stanford, um, there was a professor there. Her name's Susan McConnell, and she taught, or I guess still teaches, a conservation photography course at
Oh, very cool.
Stanford,
Very cool.
um, which I was so grateful to find her there,
Hmm. Hmm.
because the art department at Stanford was very much of the sort of mind of like nature photography as an art. Like,
Right. Right.
I,
I get that.
ironic,
Yeah.
ironically, the conservation photography course was through the biology department because the art department didn't want to
Didn't
sponsor
want
it.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
You're like,
anyway,
come on, have you not seen the work coming out of these places?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So,
I know. My husband one time said to me, I think people think you're going on vacation and just getting cute little pictures. And I'm like, what? No, we're not getting like quick pictures, quick, cute little pictures. This is like hard work. It's real
yeah,
art.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it is something that sort of exists, I think, in the art world, is there's this sort of gatekeeping of what is art and what's not.
Yeah, very true.
It's always been really hard for me. I
Yeah, yeah,
don't necessarily find that to be that productive.
yeah, yeah,
Is I mean, um, like people like David Duchemin, who I know you've had on the show,
yeah,
he, for example, really emphasizes how artistic nature photography can be.
yes.
And it's something that I wish academia would see. It
Yes, it would
doesn't
be nice. There's too much
exist.
gatekeeping already. Let's not have gatekeeping there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Jeez, come on. So
Yeah.
you finish all that. You have these great mentors and you're in this great spot. And then you've got to figure out this is what I want to do. And then you have to figure out, like many photographers, how do I cobble this all together and make a living with my art? And so it's so hard as a creative to make a living. And then so you've got your photography side, and like many photographers, you have this great resource in your backyard. So you decide to start a company. So you've got
Mhm.
to learn how to run a small business and
Yeah.
client communication and service.
Yeah.
So what steps did you take to do that? And like, what was your confidence level? Because that was 12 years ago, right?
When I started my company,
Yeah, is that about
that
12
was
years ago?
that was actually just 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you are doing really well then. I've already heard from your clients that love you. So that's
Oh,
great. That is
that's
so good. So 2 years ago, you really have a foundation of your art,
mhm.
and you've already have these degrees, and so you've got the knowledge. So then you're working on the small business part.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I When I was in college, I would come back to Jackson during the summers and
Mhm.
worked as a wildlife guide
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Kind of got an understanding of what that business looked like.
That's good. Yeah.
Um, and you know, I think I initially saw guiding and teaching as just a means of like how you actually monetize being a nature photographer.
Yeah.
Uh, but I've since kind of come to, since really kind of steeping myself in this world, come to really appreciate it and be grateful for the, because I think ultimately what what my goal has always been with photography is to have an impact on the way that people view our relationship to the natural world. Um,
Yes, yes.
and I think guiding is a very tangible way of doing that. Like
Yeah.
you get to actually see the impact you have on people
Hmm.
firsthand, whereas if I was just selling prints, it's kind of you hope that it's going on sort of in the
Right.
background, but you don't get to see it firsthand. So
Yeah.
it's something I've really felt grateful to have found in the guiding world. Um, but yeah, I decided to go through the process of starting a business um, because um, I this is a very hard career path to make, and I coming right out of college, um, I'm not tied to anything really
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
time in my life, and I um, I have a lot fewer responsibilities, and so
Yeah. Now's the time.
I knew that I would
Yeah.
always regret it if I didn't at least try
Yeah.
and
That's
try and
true.
make it work. And I still don't know whether it's going to work or not. I'm still very much in the process of
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, I mean, I feel like I would rather try and fail now than go a little bit of a safer route and maybe never try and always
Yeah.
wonder
I
whether
think
I
that's a really good point. I think that's a really good point. And you're exactly right. You're at the spot where you should do those things and try and see what happens. And you already have clients that are enjoying it and your work is beautiful. You've got a foundation. So, and at one point you said like the human connection to nature has been severed. And so I realized just reading through our notes before we started, like you really do have a heart for teaching others and for conservation. And that's what you just said, like, it's a bigger purpose than monetizing. That's a really good
yeah, yeah, I mean, I think you know work for me um is about more than just making a living. It's something I've always wanted my work, whatever it is, whether it's photography or something else, to um, I I want it to have an impact
yeah,
beyond what just is providing for myself.
yeah,
I don't think I can ever feel good about making money off of something that is sort of coming from nature in a way that doesn't also somehow
yeah,
have more of a positive impact than what it's taking from it.
yeah, that's a really good point. That's true. I hope everybody hears that because that's a really good point. Because it does, you can get bogged down out there when you're like, I got to get the shot. I got to get the shot. And then
Yeah,
to ask why, why do I want to get the shot? And then what am I going to do with it? Like,
right.
what's the purpose here? That's really good. Because
Yeah,
it can get competitive out there and like you do wonder sometimes.
yeah. It's hard. It's really easy to lose sight of, and I
Yeah.
definitely am. Um, I say that these are what my goals are, but I certainly am guilty of falling into that sometimes
It's
too.
easy. It's I mean, it's a genre that has a lot of adrenaline,
Mhm.
and a lot of passion. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's you have to check yourself for sure. I find myself doing that. Like, okay, check yourself. You don't need to push. Just wait,
Mhm.
you know? Ugh. Even though you want to.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love that. So tell us a little bit about you do tours in Grand Tetons,
Mhm.
National Park, and Yellowstone as well.
Yeah, I
Yep.
do Tetons in Yellowstone for um I do the private tours
Mhm.
with small groups or individuals.
Yeah,
Um and then I just this year started also doing a winter in Yellowstone trip, which
that's cool. Yeah.
I know you were just there.
I was just there my
It
first time in the winter. Yeah, I've done the
yeah, it
Tetons in
looks
the winter a few times, but I'd never been in Yellowstone in the winter, so that was a nice little like introduction. I'll definitely have to go
yeah.
back.
It looked like you guys had some really amazing sightings.
We did, we did. I was on the wrong side of the snow coach for some
Oh
of
no.
for some, because they
Yeah,
were so close we couldn't get out. So and
I
our group
see.
our
Yeah,
group was so polite though. So everyone was like, making sure everyone had a turn and stuff, but some things happened so quickly that we couldn't, there was nothing you could do. But yeah, just it was really beautiful. I really want to go back and spend some more time. That's the thing. It takes time with wildlife photography, so much time to get to know a place, like start feeling it out and just the way it
yeah,
works. And
for
so,
sure.
yeah, so I look forward to doing that again. And then you've been to Katmai leading tours as well.
Yep. Yeah. So
You show a picture.
um,
We're forgetting pictures because we have so much to
yeah.
talk about. I'll show some of Syler's work here.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
brown coastal bear walking the shore with his reflection. Mountain in the background. I assume this is Katmai, is it?
This is Katmai.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so the workshop that I do out there, I'm now doing two. So I do one in the spring and then one in kind of late summer when the salmon start
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
Um, both are on the Katmai coast, which there are so many different ways of doing Katmai or Alaska and all of that. I've really fallen in love with the Katmai Coast in particular, which it's definitely not the most budget friendly way of
Right.
doing Katmai,
Exactly. Exactly.
unfortunately. Yeah. Um, but it's the thing that's really special about the Katmai Coast is it's because it's so remote, everyone's staying on pretty much staying on boats that are there, and there's only a handful of boat charters that are out there. Um, and relatively few day trips go across there. So you really feel like you're a lot more immersed in the Bears world than you do at, say, Brooks,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
um, you
Yeah.
know, Brooks, I think Brooks is great. It's an amazing place, and it's something that I think you have to experience in Katmai.
You're being kind.
Yeah.
I can tell. After being there this summer, I started hearing the guides and the pilots. It's like, oh, okay, okay. I'm understanding. I'm understanding. It's a little
Yeah.
more touristy.
Yeah, it's it being a guide here in the Tetons, I spend a lot of time in crowds watching bears, and so
Yeah.
um,
It makes sense.
when I go to Alaska, I'm kind of craving that kind of more, you know, um, more wild experience, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Like it
Um,
just feels like civilization has not even been built yet. It's just like you're just in
yeah,
the middle of wilderness. It's so wonderful.
yeah, exactly. You feel like you're a guest in the bear's world and not the other way around.
Yeah. Like
Um,
this is the little bear that a lot of people photographed this summer, I think, right? This
yeah,
spring. Yes. And just
uh,
I think this is probably like if you don't believe that you need to protect nature, just look at this face. Like, how could you not want to protect this little thing? I mean, she is probably the most beautiful little thing that was on the internet this year. I mean,
I know she was
she's
adorable.
darling.
Oh my gosh, um, my uh the thing that I most wanted to see going to the Katmai Coast when I first went there was the fluffy yearlings.
Yes,
They
yes.
just they're such teddy bears,
Oh, so
and
sweet.
um, they um, yeah, they're just so playful, and it's the thing that's so cool about the Katmai Coast and getting to spend a fair amount of time there is you know you get to know the individual bears.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and it's something that I also, I find that I'm really grateful to experience in the Tetons too, is like when you get to know
Yeah.
animals as individuals and see their kind of distinct personalities and follow their life stories, and um
Yeah.
it's you it really does break down that wall of, believing that animals are so different from people. Like when you see them, um, yeah, this was 399 with the
Yeah, we're
quad.
sharing an image now for people that are listening. This is 399 with her quads and coming down a trail. This is an amazing photo. I can tell you're low because they're looking
Mhm.
right at you. I'm sure
Yeah,
you had to predict basically where she was coming to get this kind of candid shot.
yeah, this one was it was you might be familiar with where Grandview
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
in the Tetons, and she had kind of been making her way from Pilgrim down towards
Mhm.
that area, and so I just kind of sat there and waited, and there were, as there's a whole bunch of spots where bears pop out down there. So it was definitely an element of luck in that she happened to walk down this particular trail, and um, I was right next to like my car door was open, and I
Yes,
was
yes.
next to my car in this picture because I was, trying to not disturb them as much as
Right, right.
possible. Um, the reason they were actually all looking in that way was everyone that was at different spots all like tried to rush to where I
Yeah,
was
yeah. They're
at that
coming, they're
moment.
coming. Yes.
Yeah. So that was why they kind of ended up looking that way. Um, but it was, yeah, it was one of those moments that just, I was afraid to look at the camera after it
Right.
happened. I was like, surely I missed something.
Like if I miss this, I'm in so
Yeah.
much trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Look at her. We will miss her so much this spring. Just it won't be the same. It just won't be the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
beautiful. So beautiful.
Amazing bear.
Yeah, amazing bear. So, the Got You tour in Katmai as well, we were just talking about, and that's 2 trips. So if people are interested in that, they can reach out to you. And I did have a
Yeah.
submitted question about Alaska, and you covered that a little bit, but it just said, in your opinion, what's the ideal way to see Alaska for a photography trip, and where, when, and how long? You're like, whole summer,
Yeah.
the whole summer, just go the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, the reason I do the two trips is because they're definitely, I mean, spring is so different than the salmon season. I think the two times of year that I go are, at least on the Katmai coast, are I've definitely selected as kind of my favorite times to be there.
Hmm.
And that the spring season there, so the trip is June 29th to July 6th.
Hmm.
And I've found that to be kind of a sweet spot in the spring season where in the spring, kind of the bears are so pretty because they still have their winter coats, so they're super fluffy. You get the cute fluffy yearlings like in the picture.
Yes, because even just a few, maybe weeks later, her fur was all coming off, and she
Exactly.
she looked
Yeah.
like an awkward teenager.
Yep. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing how many just weeks or a month can make a difference.
Yeah, so early spring they're fluffy like that, but you don't have as many cubs around because it's kind of um the intense times of mating season.
Hmm.
So if you want to see mating behaviors, it's definitely a good time for that, but you don't see a lot of cubs. And then as you get more into the middle of the summer, then the cubs start coming out into the sedge meadows, and you can get more cubs, but there's sort of a small window when there are both cubs and fluffy bears at the same time. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
because if you wait, yeah, it was, really just a week later. Um,
Wow.
that they really started shedding. And so, uh,
Totally different.
yeah, I mean, not that it's, it's still amazing to see bears
Yes.
when they are looking a little bit, you
Ragged.
know, more ragged. Yeah,
But like
when
you
they're
said, it is really expensive. And so I think when you're planning it, I think I went probably a week too early. I was there from I think, let's see, like June 25th and flew back out July, maybe 24th to July 1st. So even
Okay. Yeah,
even at
yeah.
Brooks, I missed stuff at Brooks. There was a few. And then
Yeah.
we got lucky and saw a humpback whale carcass on the coast. And
Oh
so
wow.
that was
Uh,
pretty cool. But
yeah.
no cubs and things like that. So I mean, I have to go back to find cubs.
Yeah.
That timing is so important.
It's hard. I mean, it's
Yeah.
with the climate is changing, and so it's
Right, right.
hard to know exactly when it's all
That's
gonna
right,
happen.
that's right. But you suggest the boats to do it from boat, like, instead of
But
flying in and out?
yeah, I mean, if you can afford to do a boat trip, I do find that to be the best way of doing the Katmai coast at least.
Mhm, mhm.
There's one lodge in Katmai that my first time in Katmai, I tried to visit there. Um, and it's very you have to take a small skiff to get to where the bears
Mhm,
typically are, and
mhm.
we had really bad weather, and so
Oh,
they couldn't
man.
really get the skiff out, and then there was this big windstorm coming, so they actually ended up having to evacuate us by
Oh,
float plane
no,
before
no.
we really even had time to see the bears. So when you're on the boat, it's one of those things where, um, if there's bad weather, you can just go to a different bay that's more
Okay,
protected, or
okay. Yeah.
if the float planes can't get in, the boat can take you back to Kodiak.
Right, right.
Um, and so there's less chance of getting your trip cut short in that way.
Yeah,
The other thing too is, you know, there might be cubs in one bay, but there, aren't in another. And so you have the ability to kind of traverse the coast and
yeah, yeah.
um,
That makes
get
sense.
sort of a variety of things. Um,
Mhm.
and then as far as the float planes go, if you're doing float planes every day to get to different parts of the park, you can definitely see more of the park. And it's definitely a great way to do it if you're willing to take the risk of not being able to fly some days, which is
Yeah,
is definitely Alaska is so unpredictable weather-wise that um it's tough to count on a plane.
yeah. There were
So,
days we turned, like, changed course in mid-flight
mhm.
because the pass wasn't passable.
Yeah.
We had to turn. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I do find that the boat is kind of the most I guess uh sort of weatherproof in
Right,
terms
right, which is so
of
important for Alaska.
yeah.
So important. That was the whole part. It's a whole world that was different. Like, we would call every night the weather service and, like, make sure, and all these I'm just all these numbers and all these things. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's just a way of life here." It's totally
Yeah.
different, totally different. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite experience, guiding some of your clients? Did you guys in Katmai or the Tetons or Yellowstone, do you have one that stands
Wow.
out?
Um, one that definitely stands out for me in the Tetons was um gosh, what year would it have been? It was when 399 came out with Spirit, so it was I guess 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Um and it was the first day of a multi-day trip. Um and these clients really, really wanted to see 399. And
Oh,
she had not been seen yet. So I was like, well,
I can't promise.
it is the time of year that she often appears, but uh, it's not always a guarantee. And
Yeah, yeah.
so we were out for the morning and didn't really see any bears in the morning, and then we were on a little break for lunch in the middle of the day when it was hot and
Yeah.
everything. I get the text that 399 is out with a cub, and I was like,
No way.
I told my clients, I was like, we have to go back into the park.
Hurry. Let's
Yeah.
go. Well, I mean, did they get a great tour or what? I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And so
Yeah.
so you got there in time
We did get
here
there
and
in time and had the that bear jam got a little bit crazy, but
Of course. Yes, yes.
at the beginning of it, it was really great, and
Yeah.
they got some really great pictures of her with Spirit when she stood a couple times. There was She was looking kind of back into the woods, like there was maybe a male bear or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Um, and so she stood a couple times and Spirit would like put her paw up. I'm sure you've seen lots of
Yes,
pictures
those cute pictures of that.
that
Yes.
day.
So wonderful.
Um,
Oh, so
yeah,
sweet.
um that was a really fun day guiding because it it definitely is one of those things where like when people have something like 399 that they're really really wanting to
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
and it's you feel a lot of pressure as a guide.
I'm sure.
um,
You're like, I
um,
can't
but
call her today and tell her to show
yeah.
up. Sorry.
Yeah. um Another moment that kind of stands out to me was um I had some clients up in we were doing the northern part of Yellowstone, and
Mhm.
they said they wanted to see everything but bears. They were really, really afraid of bears.
Oh, dear.
Like we really don't want to see bears. And of course, like we enter the park, the first thing we see is the
Oh,
bear.
no, no, no. It's usually the
And
opposite, I
I
assume.
know exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Um, and it that was pretty funny. And then after experiencing this bear, they were like, okay, we don't want to see anything else. We want to see
Yeah, okay. You switch them. You switch them. I was
yeah,
gonna say, once they see one,
yeah,
I had the same thing with some girlfriends that met me out there, and I was like, just come and I'll take you around. And they did not want to see bears and like would like walk way around trails, like to no, is there I'm like, wait, you want to see bears? This is the fall. We want to see bears. No,
yeah.
like no. Like I don't understand. I don't understand. Um,
Yeah.
besides the photo of 399 and the quads, do you have another favorite photo that you share with me? I can't, I'm trying to think of what I would like to show more of your work. Oh, here's one
Yeah.
of her standing up. I forgot we had that. 399
Oh yeah,
standing
from
up.
that
I'll share
day.
that. Let's share that one real quick. That's from that day.
It is, yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Look at Spirit. Oh,
Yeah, it was so
it's
cute.
so cool. I love it.
Yeah, she was such an amazing mom.
Oh, she was. I know. Just to watch her like care for all of them and look both ways and watch for everybody to cross.
Mhm.
Oh, it's gonna be an interesting spring.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
um, I had another question,
Yeah.
and so we kind of covered this a little bit. We didn't go all the way there, but like we can talk about the ethics of wildlife photography and coexistence with these bear jams. But someone also has said, being raised in Jackson, you've probably seen a lot of bad behavior and
Yeah.
competition among photographers. Have you experienced that? And if so, how have you dealt with it and stayed away from it? That was another submitted question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It is unfortunately a very competitive place. There can be a lot of particularly I find in the bear watching part of the photography community,
Hmm. Hmm.
there can be a lot of drama. I've said before, I mean, I think it would be terrible if it actually ever happened, but it would sort of make an entertaining reality TV show with
I
all the
know.
stuff that goes on. Uh,
We have joked before, it's like Real Housewives or Real whatever
yeah,
from the Tetons. There's a lot
yeah.
of drama when it comes to the bears and bear jams and people
Mhm.
getting too close and like new photographers coming in and getting too close. And I heard a lot of bad things this last fall. So
Yeah, it's tough because you know, there are a lot of different motivations for people to be out there, and it's not
right.
always necessarily the well-being of the animal.
Mhm, mhm.
And so that I think can definitely be a challenging thing because I mean photography, even in the most ethical ways, does have some impact on the animal. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, it's just sort of a fact of it, which is why I think it's so important to have your photography um, have some kind of broader impact
Yeah.
because if you're taking something from an animal in that way and it doesn't serve any other purpose, it's something I have a hard time.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's a challenge. I try to not get too involved in the drama, and some people get really um angry at people if there are people that don't know and end up getting
Yeah.
close to the animal or something like
Yeah.
that. I always try and approach things from, a calm perspective. I don't think anyone learns anything from being screamed at.
Yeah.
Um, I think people, you know, learn things from more gentle conversation, or when I'm guiding, I can help teach people in that way.
Right.
And I hope to kind of spread information to people and the people that they tell to come visit here
Right.
and
Right.
spread that information that way. Whereas, kind of in the moment, it rarely I find is that helpful to
Yeah.
yell at somebody
Yeah.
who's
Better just to educate quietly or calmly. Yeah. I mean, I've seen, those bear jams get so I don't even know how the word. I've seen people screaming at the wildlife management and things like that. It's just I just have to leave and go down to the snake and watch pelicans for a while when that happens. I can't do it. I just can't do it. But I understand the draw, but even like feeding the foxes and things like that, I don't think
right,
some people don't know, even though there's signs everywhere. They don't know. So I've had to be like, please don't feed this animal. Like they will kill it. You don't understand. And they're like, they didn't know. So
right.
sometimes they really don't know if it's their first time in a national park, you know.
Mhm.
I think they think maybe it's a zoo or something,
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, exactly. You know, I mean, even on tours, I've had people that, ask what time the park service lets the animals out.
No. Oh no.
You
Goodness.
know,
Oh goodness.
it's at a certain point you can't blame somebody for
Yeah.
not knowing.
They just have to learn, and they're
Yeah,
learning with you, so that's good, and I love how
yeah.
you say, like, you don't wanna just take from the animal. That's been a theme, is
Mhm,
that of our conversation, is you just don't wanna take from nature or from the animal. You want a higher purpose to impact others, to help preserve their habitat, their ecosystem, to help preserve their lives. So,
mhm.
um, it's a really good reminder for all of us just to have that mission kind of in our mind before we step foot out, like, we have our cameras ready, but do we have our mindset ready and our mission and
Right,
like to stick with that while we're out there? Sometimes the adrenaline gets pumping and it's hard, to
definitely.
keep that, but it's so true. And I always try to like give thanks a little bit, like thank you
Yeah,
for that moment. Thank you for
exactly.
giving me that. Cause it's like those moments are few and far between. It looks like from our feeds that they happen all the time, but,
Mhm.
it's when that magic happens, it's really important to just be thankful and grateful for that moment and then, think about that animal. So,
Yeah,
such a
it's
wonderful art to be a part of.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, photography, it's really easy to slip into like I notice this sometimes where if I have an experience in nature that's really cool, but I didn't get a picture of it, or I somehow messed up the picture.
Mhm.
It's like it doesn't count
Oh,
sometimes,
I
and
know, yes.
a mindset that I try to combat as much as possible and be grateful that I got to experience the moment one way or another. And
Yes.
I think it is helpful too in just, when you go out and are approaching photography, actually just enjoying the experience of being in nature. The more you can kind of get in the mindset of being kind of okay whether you get the picture or not allows you a lot more creative freedom
Yeah.
and allows you a lot more I guess just grace with yourself in um that you're not always going to get the shot, and
Yeah.
that's not I have so many clients that they get really discouraged because um, they miss shots every now and then. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that professionals miss a lot of shots too.
Yes. Yes.
Um, we all miss shots, and there's always um, I've always been of the mindset that, no matter what level you are, there's always more to learn and um, more ways to push yourself creatively, and
Yeah.
to expect yourself to go out and be perfect, it is very unrealistic. And I think once people kind of start to realize that, it definitely opens up a lot of creative freedom, because
Yeah.
it can really just it bogs you down and kind of can sometimes actually spoil the experience of actually being out there and doing the photography, when you're like, oh, I should have taken this in a different way, or
I'm guilty of it, totally guilty of it. I'm going through that this week where I like have to remind myself, no, it's okay. Sometimes you don't go through, you're going to go, actually in creativity, you go through these places where it's not perfect and you have to dig deep and figure out, where do I need to go next? And what do I need to try? Maybe I need to play a little bit. Maybe I need to put less pressure on myself.
Mhm.
Maybe I need to enjoy the moment more.
Yeah,
For me, it's
yeah,
daily, like daily remembering those things. Ugh. And social
for
media
sure.
doesn't help,
Yeah,
but that's a
I
whole
think
other factor.
uh, I think guiding has been really helpful for me
Yeah,
in that it forces me to be like, okay, I have to make sure my clients are getting this first.
that's right.
And so there's definitely a lot of moments that I'm watching something unfold that I wish I was photographing, but I'm helping somebody else get that picture, and just like having
Yeah,
having that as a regular thing that you're experiencing
that's
definitely
true.
helps you when you go out on your own,
That's
uh,
true.
in
Yeah,
having that mindset. Because it's hard. It's
yeah, it's
really
hard. Yeah. I mean, I felt like when I was reading over, I always give people some questions beforehand, and I just felt like that you still have some hope in what you want to build over the
hard.
next year or 5 or 10.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
what do you see happening? What are you hopeful for your guiding and your photography over the next year or 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, definitely over the longer term, I want the types of experiences that I'm giving to people, to be able to be um, accessible to more people. I think that's something it's something I struggle with in the industry that I'm in, is that, I in choosing what I think is the best experience in Katmai, it's also a very, very expensive experience.
Yeah,
Um, and so, I want to be able to find ways of, like the scholarship program that I did in high school, where I got to
hmm
participate in the photography at the summit as, a young kid, and how much that impacted me. I
yeah,
wanted to be able to do that in my business, and
yeah,
I'm at this current stage. I'm just trying to kind of keep myself afloat, so it's a lot
yeah,
harder to do
yeah,
those
absolutely,
kinds of
yeah,
things. But I definitely want to be able to reach kind of more diversity of people, and
yeah,
um, you know, have that impact be, something that, whether it's working more with, people from the local communities in places that I'm traveling, or, you know, um, through Stanford, I had the opportunity to go to South Africa. And the thing that was amazing to me there was a lot of the communities that were just on the borders of these national parks
mhm,
had never been able to see the wildlife that was there. And
wow,
how can you expect someone to care for those
mhm,
animals if it doesn't ever become something that's a part of their lives, or that
right,
they get to experience. And so um, I definitely haven't figured out, I guess, how that's all gonna work in
Yeah.
what I do, but I definitely want travel is not without its um, impacts as well, both
Right. Right.
climate and on the animals and
Mhm.
on communities and things like that. So I
Yeah.
think um, I'm always I think in the short term, I'm just kind of trying to get my business rolling.
Mhm.
But in the longer term, I want a lot more of those kind of um, sustainability
Yeah.
features to be a part of what I do,
Yeah.
um, and conservation to play a much more sort of direct role
Yeah.
um, in the types of um, experiences that I'm providing.
Yeah. I don't know why I said 12 years earlier. You're way
Oh
too
no,
young
that's
for you to be
okay.
in 12 years. No, but I think the all the
I
foundation that you're laying is like, and the intention you already have is building that so that as you're working towards this in the next 5, 10, 20 years, those things will come with the hard work that you're giving and the intention that you're putting in it. So I see it. I see it. You've got the heart for it for sure. It's so cool.
It's sweet of
Really
you to
cool.
say.
I'm being totally genuine. Um, so I do a little speed round with people. So
Yeah,
we can do,
definitely.
let's do that. Let's do that. And sometimes it's not that speedy and it's okay.
Okay, that's great.
So the first question is like, what's something in your camera bag that you can't do without?
Yeah, I this is sort of a funny one, but extra batteries and memory cards, I always
Yeah,
have to keep in my camera bag because it's so often that at least here in the Tetons, like I'll get the call that there's something happening in the park, or
yeah, yeah,
I get on a whim and I don't always necessarily like the battery that's in the camera or the card that's in the camera might not be
yeah.
uh, ready to go.
It's
So
already full from other things you've done.
yeah, exactly.
And I'm
Um,
like, I can't see anything else today. My card is so full. My cards are full.
yeah, exactly. So I always like to have like that emergency battery and memory card.
Yes, we joke that there should be like a food truck that goes around the Tetons that has memory cards, batteries, pizza
Yeah,
and coffee,
yeah, yeah,
all the
exactly.
bear jams and everything. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a good tip, everybody. Have your memory cards and your batteries. And then
Yeah.
what's something that you feel like you bought and it's in your bag and you never use?
So the thing that I went through a period where I really wanted to do a lot more video. And this is kind of before I started my business. So um I bought one of those external recorders in Atomos. Um
Yes.
and it's great, but I you know I'm going back and forth between photo and video so much.
Yeah.
Um, and it's honestly like a lucky thing if I even think to turn on to video,
I know. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I need to do more of. But yeah, the external recorder thing, I just never use it
Yeah.
because like if I'm doing video, I don't have time to like
Yeah. I think
get
someone
all
else
of
said
that.
that too. I can't remember. I can't remember who said that, but someone else has said
Yeah.
that too. Yep. Your favorite snack while editing or driving around?
Um, yeah,
Snacks are
yeah.
important.
Yeah, it's funny. I often I get so immersed in photography when I'm out, I like kind of forget to
Yeah.
drink water and eat food
Yeah.
um and do those things. But I there's this place in Jackson called Pearl Street Bagels.
Hmm.
This is kind of a local a favorite place.
Yeah.
I love to when I'm going up into the field to have a bagel with me
It's
for
very
lunch.
nice. Very
It's
nice. I sat back on is it I think it's I was back
Yeah.
there one time all by myself
Uh-huh.
and I had a chocolate croissant from Persephone all by
Nice. That's
myself,
great.
looking at the Grand, looking at the elk all by myself. I'm like, this This is the life. This is the
Yeah,
life right now.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
peace and no one's back here, and I've got my Persephone. So
uh,
I get it.
yeah. That area is like in the middle of the summer where I go to find peace.
Yes, yes. That
It's
many times
nice.
I'll be like, "Just let me go back and
Yeah,
be quiet for a while. I
yeah.
can't do it anymore." And then do you have a we talked a little bit about it, but you may have something different, a favorite photographer, artist, book, author that you'd like to share with everyone?
Um, Gosh, I have so many.
So many, I know,
It's
yeah.
so hard. One that comes to mind that um I've been inspired by for a long time are Paul Nicklin and Christina Mittermeier.
Mhm.
Um, they're an amazing duo,
Yes,
both in the conservation world and in photography. And
yes.
um, I am so fascinated by the polar regions. I think I've always,
Yeah.
Paul Nicklin's work has always really inspired me
Mhm,
in that way. But I think, locally, Tom Mengelson and Steve Mathis.
mhm.
Um, Gosh, I'm inspired by everybody. It's so hard to
I
to
know.
list.
I know, it really
Uh,
is.
I mean, I even, I always like to say, I mean, I feel like I learn things and am inspired by my clients sometimes too. I mean,
Yeah,
um, everyone brings such a unique perspective. It's so hard to,
yeah.
to pick a favorite.
That's what Lydia Riplinger said too. She said, "I don't care if you're just starting photography or you've been shooting for 40 years, like, I'll learn something from you because you see things differently than I do."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was
exactly.
really important to think
Yeah,
about because sometimes there is this gatekeeping or hierarchy, and it's important to remember that, we can learn from everyone. Yeah.
yeah,
It's so true. I know
totally.
my social media feed is so like my wildlife account is just wildlife. So I've had friends sitting by me on a plane or something like, "What? How are you doing that? How is your feed so beautiful?"
Yeah.
Like it's just people that inspire me. This is just
Yeah.
wildlife photography. No, nothing else.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so many
For sure.
beautiful images and great photographers out there to be inspired by.
So many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I I mean, I always think that, like I said before, photography is something that you're always growing. No matter what level you are, there's
Yes.
always new ways of seeing. And I think it's important. I think sometimes when people get to a certain level, they forget that they still should be learning.
Yeah.
Um,
It's true.
but but I think it is something that you're never done learning
Yeah.
photography.
It's true. And do you have advice that you remember from someone in photography? The best advice you've been given?
Gosh, I guess I sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think the most um I think the most freeing thing for me that I've heard from multiple people. I wouldn't say that I necessarily know who the first person that said it to me was, but the idea that there can sometimes be this idea that as you get more experience with photography, you should have a higher keeper rate, essentially.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um,
Yes.
a-
Yes.
and I think that that's like when that is like when somebody told me that that's not actually true, that
Yeah.
was really helpful for
Yeah.
me because um as you get more experience, you become a lot pickier or you try more things.
Yes.
I think a lot of beginners just try one thing and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. And so maybe their keeper rate might be much higher
That'd be
than,
great.
I
Yeah.
think having the freedom to experience something in nature and work the scene.
Yeah.
Don't just show up and take the perfect picture most of the
Right.
time.
Right.
And so trying things and being okay with taking bad pictures is something that I found really helpful in actually taking better pictures.
Yeah, I think so
Because
too.
I think the more you try things and fail, you know, the more you're learning and the faster you're learning.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're not trying things, you're probably not pushing the boundaries. And I think that was something that I know David said on the podcast as well,
Hmm.
that really resonated with me, and I think is something that a mentality that I think has been really, really helpful, um, to just like have grace with yourself and
Yeah,
have the freedom to experiment
yeah,
um, and not have this pressure that every picture is supposed to be perfect.
perfect. Yeah. I think that's my frustration this year where I am in my growth is like, I think I should be getting this many photos or like, let me walk away with this many photos, like, and just getting pickier and like things are, it's actually getting harder, you know,
Exactly.
and it's like, no, I don't want to struggle.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
sometimes that struggle is what brings better,
Hmm.
better images. And that's the creative process. Like if you're writing a book, you sometimes have to break that whole thing down and build up the good parts again, or try something new. And I sometimes like try to remind myself of that. Okay, it's a creative process. This is art. So,
Yeah.
we think this is art.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
everybody, so like it is part of the process and trusting that process, but it's like you have to stop and think like, oh, this is where I am maybe in that process. This is why things are hard. Not that I'm maybe a bad photographer and I should give it all up, but maybe it's just because I'm getting pickier, and I want
Right.
more. So
Yeah,
it's kind of fun to it's not always fun to be in that part of the process, but fun to look back.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what that was.
Yep.
And I had to grow. I didn't want to grow. Yeah, I was going to say my keeper rate right now is not good. It's not
Yeah.
good. It's frustrating, but I got to
It can
trust
be,
the process.
yeah.
Trust the process. Is there a moment? Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a moment that you felt like really filled you or filled your soul or filled you up emotionally out there that you think of?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I feel that every time I'm in the presence of wildlife, but
Yeah.
um, the the moment that I think when I saw that question that came to mind was a couple years ago. Um, I was out in the back country in the Tetons, just kind of wandering as some of us do, um, which I don't necessarily recommend other people do because
Yeah,
of
yeah,
being alone out, like not on a trail. But
yep.
anyway, I was looking for, I really wanted to find a pine marten,
Hmm. Hmm.
or a great gray owl, and I spend a lot of time in the summer when things are crazy looking for kind of the more hidden things
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the more secluded things in nature here.
Hmm.
Um, and I had been hiking for a couple hours, and the sun was starting to kind of get behind the mountains, and I
Hmm.
knew that it was like I kind of need to start heading back pretty soon, so that I'm not heading back in the dark. And um, literally the moment that I turned around and was gonna head back, this hummingbird flies right past my ear, and I turn my head, and there's a great gray owl that had just landed on a perch, maybe 2 feet.
Oh my God. Did you send that picture to me? Do I have that?
Um, the
I may have
so
a different one.
I I think the great gray owl pictures that I sent you were what then followed from, so that owl then um so I saw that owl, and then I heard some commotion in a tree behind, and that owl had chicks.
Oh,
Um
oh, how
and
fun.
and so over the course of the summer I would periodically go back
Hmm.
to that spot, and I got to watch them grow up. And so I think, yeah, this was one of the fledglings
Oh
when it
yeah, yes, yes. Now I can
was,
tell. Yeah.
um, yeah, and so this was, yeah, it all started when this hummingbird like, showed me this owl. And it was just one of those moments where it just felt like, um, yeah, it just was magical that,
Yeah.
you know, getting to be, I mean, owls in themselves I find so magical.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but just the sort of just the way that that whole experience first unfolded by this hummingbird
Yeah.
showing
Yeah.
me where this owl was that I wouldn't have otherwise seen, and then you know, getting to spend this summer watching this family, um, it was really one of the most special things that I've experienced in
Yeah. That's
Tetons.
so cool. It seems like a sacred, those sacred moments. Like
Mhm.
that doesn't happen, that privilege,
Yeah,
of getting
yeah,
to do that. Yeah, that's so cool.
yeah.
Well, what are you're guiding the rest of this year, 2025. You've got tours
Yeah.
that people can are they full or do you have spaces open?
I do have spaces open. Yeah, May is fairly full, but you know, earlier spring or later spring, I still have availability.
Hmm.
Um, and then I have a couple spaces open on both Katmai trips right
Oh,
now.
that's good for
Um,
people to know. Yes. Yes.
yeah, so the first one, the one in the spring is like I was saying, that kind of sweet spot for trying to get cubs and fluffy bears.
Yep. Yep.
And the bears, the beautiful green sedge. So that's June 29th to July 6th. And then the salmon run one is after the salmon have been running for usually at least about a week. So the bears have started to fatten up a little bit, and
Hmm.
they start to put on their winter coat again. So it's kind of another sweet spot there.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and the salmon runs happen at different times in different parts of Katmai, but the that's when the runs are happening on the Katmai coast. So that's August 29th to September 5th.
Okay. And if people want to find you, they go to Pangea Expeditions for those
Yeah,
tours.
PangeaExpeditions.com would be
Yeah.
where you would find the
Yeah.
tours.
And then if they want to follow you on Instagram, how will they
Yep.
find you?
Instagram, it's just at Syler PR, so
Okay.
Syler
Yep.
PR.
And people should check that out because you have beautiful work.
Thank
We didn't
you.
even get to go through all of it today, but you have beautiful work. So everyone check that out. It's so gorgeous. And you could probably sell prints from there as well.
I do, yeah. So I have a separate website that I sell prints on that's just
Okay.
sylerpr.com.
Okay.
You but it's all linked from Instagram. So if you find that,
Yeah.
it's easy to get to.
Yeah. Well, I could talk to you forever about all this stuff.
Likewise.
I love talking about wildlife photography and creativity together because it's just my
Yeah.
wheelhouse too. So, but I mean, in Indiana, I don't have a lot of people I'm talking to about wildlife photography. So anytime I can just like talk about it, I love it. So it's been wonderful having you on and finally meeting, and hopefully we'll see each
Likewise.
other in the field. That would be really
Yeah,
fun to say hey.
definitely. Yeah.
I'm hoping to
The,
be there in May and then
okay.
hopefully in the fall and maybe December. It's my usual. So hopefully that'd be
Okay.
so fun. But
Cool.
I
Yeah.
just really appreciate you being on here with me and everyone check out Syler's stuff. It's so gorgeous. Get a print, get a tour, have fun in the Tetons or Yellowstone or Katmai. It'll be fun. And our next guest I'm having, let me see my notes here. Tiffany Taxis is coming up. So you've probably met Tiffany
Yeah,
out
Tiffany's
there.
great.
Yeah,
That would
she's
be
great.
awesome.
We had a great discussion on it. We recorded that and it's coming out in March as well. And then Philip Scrimshaw is coming on late March. We met each other on the Snake photographing otters together and had just like an epic evening of otters. It was so
That's
fun.
great.
So now
Otters
it's
are
this like little otter gang that we remember of all of us that just met on the banks of the Snake. Of like
that's so
having
cool.
never met before. So it was really fun. So he's going to be on. He'll share some Africa stuff with us. And if you'd like to sign up for emails to get the registrations, you can see that at Wildlife Conversations Podcast on Instagram. Or my Instagram is Jen L. Ritchie, or you can follow me on Apple or Spotify. And also the podcast is up on YouTube under my name, Jen Ritchie Photography, so you can find it there too. So all that promo kind of stuff. It's
Awesome.
also fun, isn't it, Syler?
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking to you, and I hope we get to talk again anytime.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you
you
so much
so
for
much.
having me.
Okay, we'll see you hopefully in the field.
Thank you.
Okay,
Likewise.
thanks, Syler. Bye-bye.
Bye.